Morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to Disorder in the Court with continuing coverage of the oops, there's my alarm. Time to go live. With continuing coverage of the Robert Telles trial. It is supposed to start any moment now. Hello, Evil Queen Yaya. Nice to see you. So this is where we are at with this trial at this point. Last week, the state presented their case, and it was a very, very full week. It went by very quickly. Hey, Sharon. You know what? There's something really going weird right now with YouTube because I've noticed that, like, I've tried to hit like on some videos and it doesn't register my like. Hey, Teacup. Good morning. It doesn't register my like. And I'm noticing that there are people in here, but on my side on StreamYard, it says there's nobody here. It's so weird. So anyway, so last week, the state pretty much flew through several very important witnesses in this case. We heard from the neighbors who discovered Jeff Gehrman, the investigative reporter, murdered on the side of his home. Yeah, it's so weird, Teacup. It's like, have you noticed that? Has that been happening to anybody else? I mean, I like to give creators likes for their videos that I watch, and then it's not showing up. I don't know. It's just so weird. Anyway, so last week they pretty much ended the state pretty much ended on presenting evidence from the body cam footage and the neighbors who came by, went through all of the details of the vehicle that he was driving. There was a lot of discussion about, is this the right vehicle? So the defense in this case, their basic argument for their basic defense is, you can't prove it was him. You can't prove that was his vehicle. You can't prove he was there. The DNA test, the DNA results are flimsy. That's in their mind. And anything else, any evidence that was actually found in the home of Robert Telles was planted. And one of the most important witnesses that came on last week was the detective who was investigating fraud. So Robert Telles had approached the DA and said he wanted to report ongoing fraud on behalf of basically the old regime that had just been elected out of office. He came into office. He came in saying that the previous basically regime had been committing fraud and basically, you don't know anything about this case. Okay, Evil Queen. So let me just finish this, and I'll, if we have time before they start, I will give you a little bit of a background. But so Robert Telles, he was an elected official in Las Vegas for the public administration office. He was the public administrator, and what the public administrator does is they, when a person dies and they do not leave a will, and they have real assets like a home and other property, what they do is, when they can't figure out, there's no notice of, who is supposed to get all of these assets. Nobody steps up to claim it. They figure out who the next of kin is. Hello, Earth. Nice to see you. Who the next of kin is. They calculate the assets. They figure out what's real and what's not. And then they deal with it accordingly. In that work, a lot of times what ends up happening is there's a home. There's a home that's been vacated. It doesn't go to anybody. So then real estate companies come in and they will take over the mortgage of the house, and they will flip the house and sell it. And Robert Telles, the public administrator in Las Vegas, was declaring that they were committing fraud. Well, as that was being investigated, the investigator was then approached by a different party saying that Robert Telles was the one doing the fraud. These individuals said that Robert Telles was engaged in some sort of kickback scheme from real estate developers so that they would always get this. They were always the ones that would get the job or be able to get access to this, home that was being freed up. So those two investigations of opposing parties were both underway. And then Jeff Gehrman, an investigative reporter with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, published some damning reports about Robert Telles and his conduct in the office. They claimed that there was a secret affair going on in the office, that it created a hostile work environment, that he was using favoritism toward the woman that he was having the affair with. And the people who went to the paper for Jeff Gehrman to report this provided Gehrman with footage, like undercover footage, of Telles exiting a car, the backseat of a car in a parking lot with this woman from the office. Both of them at the time were married. She may have not been, but he definitely was married at the time. So this was scandalous. And then they were reporting all kinds of other, bad office juju. So, the woman that he had this supposed scandalous affair with, she took the stand last week. And what she said was that she received a records request to fulfill from the police department. They sent her this, list of things that they needed, a list of emails that needed to be gathered together, emails and communications and things that needed to be gathered together. And she was putting all of that stuff together. And then she was communicating with Robert Telles about the fact that the police was asking for this records request on behalf of Jeff Gehrman, this investigative reporter who had already written negative things about Robert Telles. And also, all while this is happening, there was an election season, and Robert Telles lost his primary bid. And the person who won the election was somebody who worked for him in the office. Her name is Rita Reed. She'll probably testify. I don't know. I'm not sure. But this new regime was coming in, and while all that transition was happening, they get this records request, and literally the day after they get this records request, or the day that they get this records request, Jeff Gehrman, the investigative reporter, ends up murdered on the side of his home. They discover him on the side of his home, stabbed to death. So that's basically the gist of the case, is that this gentleman, Robert Telles, is accused of murdering I'm sorry, Jeff German, who is an investigative journalist, a very well-known, very respected, seemed like a pretty, stalwart guy, that Robert Tellis murdered Jeff German, and his motive was to keep, was obviously retaliation for the stories that he had been writing about Robert Tellis, and also to prevent more information from coming out, to prevent, a story to be written about whatever this records request was. So they were obviously extremely nervous about this records request. Yeah, very sorry for the reporter. And yes, scandalous. So it was interesting to hear the witnesses on the stand because, for instance, this woman that he allegedly had this affair with, she clearly had sympathy for Robert. She felt, and this is her boss and the accused, she felt that he was being wrongfully accused, that he was being targeted, that it was a smear campaign, a witch hunt, and really felt that the corruption, any corruption that was being investigated, that was happening on the other side of things, not by him. So she sympathized with him, but after Gehrman is discovered murdered on the side of his house, again stabbed to death, the police, they don't know who it is. He had been laying there in the heat, in the Las Vegas heat, for many hours, and he was discovered by his neighbors. And when the police start reporting this and they're trying to find out who did this, they start canvassing, of course, the area. They find surveillance footage and things like that. And first they put out a video of the assailant from other neighbors' ring cameras walking in the area. And they are 15 minutes late now. What's up with that? I don't think they may have been 15 minutes late before, but I mean, come on, they already start at a pretty late time. How dare they start 15 minutes later than a time that's already late in and of itself? Hold on one moment. So they issued, the police put out information, they put out images, and they put out a video of the known assailant walking in the neighborhood. And the known assailant, and the reason they know it was the assailant is because you see the actual person walking along and then going and kind of lying in wait for Jeff German, the reporter. And then when the reporter comes home from wherever he is, he gets attacked on the side of his house. So, and you can see from a distance the attack happening, but you can't see any, faces. You can't identify anybody. But when they release this footage of the assailant walking from these ring camera videos, people in the office start kind of looking at it and going, that kind of looks like Robert Tellis. And they, in that area, especially in their community, in the public administration office, in the civic center, Las Vegas government, they knew that there was this major big issue going on between Las Vegas Review-Journal and Robert Tellis, and they knew that Robert Tellis had an axe to grind with Jeff German. So it was really interesting because the woman that he had the affair with was saying that she saw that, and at first it didn't really even register that it was him, and then she saw the next release from the police, which was an image of his automobile, which is a maroon. Oh gosh, the name of the car. It's a Denali. It's a maroon Denali. Okay, and police were able to track this Denali, the movements of this Denali from Robert Telles's home to Jeff Garman's home. And there are distinctive features on this Denali. So his mistress or former mistress reports that she then saw the image of the Denali, and she contacted TELLES, and she said something like, "You better hide your car." So I mean, again, you can tell she's very sympathetic. She's like, she's like, this car that they've identified in the murder is like your car. Isn't that your car? What color? She even asked him, "What color is your car?" And he told her, and he was honest. He was like, "It's like a maroon." But he just kind of like sloughed it off, like, no big deal. There are lots of those cars. It's not mine. I can tell you. He said he has maintained his innocence this whole time. So, um, what has been really interesting about this case, and you can see from the thumbnail that I put up, this man, I don't think I've ever seen a human being who changes his facial expression so many times in the matter of a second. And this is when, oh gosh, oh no, that's it. Sorry, this is an old thumbnail from when they were showing the autopsy photos. But anyway, the man changes his facial expressions literally second by second by second by second by second by second. And in my mind, he looks like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now, right? That's what he looks like to me. He's a very menacing looking guy. But it was interesting. It was interesting because the day after I took all these screenshots of him, reacting to the autopsy photos, the next day he came into court and he was trying to control his face so much. And that accounted for, I think, so much of his facial changes, is like just trying to figure out, what would my face look like right now if I was innocent? Because I'm going to tell you guys, like, again, innocent till proven guilty, all that type of stuff. But I truly feel that this guy's guilty. I see guilt all over this guy. He screams guilt to me. I'm sorry. And it's not just his face. It's not just his behavior. It's all of the evidence that's being put together. And what I really appreciate about this particular trial is that it's moving very quickly. There are very, very few sidebars and objections between the parties. The two opposing counsel are not like going at each other all the time. And it moves pretty quickly. Now, one thing I'll say about that, though, is, and this is another interesting thing about this case, is that Telles is educated as a lawyer. Okay. He was a probate attorney, which, makes it natural that he would be elected to public administration in that role. He was a probate and estate attorney, not a trial attorney, not a criminal defense attorney. But when all this came up and he got arrested, he, right up until just 2, maybe 3 months ago, he was representing himself. And his he's definitely hey, happy Monday, Christina. He's definitely one of those guys who thinks he is the fucking bomb.com. Okay, he believes he's got it all in the bag. He knows. He really thought right up until just a few months ago that he was going to represent himself. And then all of a sudden, he gets this lawyer. And so this lawyer has not had very much time to prepare. So that might account for why there's so few objections. Would you be okay if I added your channel to the bot I have in my Discord that alerts people? Absolutely, Earth. Please do. Please do. If you wouldn't mind, do you know about my other channel? I think, did I tell you, were you here when I talked about my other channel that I'm not linking to this channel for various reasons? It looks like this if you want to look it up. And if you want to put that channel in there too, that would be amazing as well, because I'm trying to build up that. Obviously, I have about 92 subscribers on the channel now. But anyway, if you aren't able to find the channel, feel free to send me an email at checkmatehumanity@gmail.com and I will send you a link. And now I'm getting very, very curious about why they're getting started so late. Something must be happening. Something must be happening. And wait, I'm clicking back to your comment, Earth, because I just realized something. I didn't know that there were bots. Is that just a hey Solo? Good morning. I hope you had a good weekend. Is that just a Discord thing? Like, I didn't know that there were bots that alerts people when people are live. That's really interesting. Maybe that's just a Discord thing. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to go to the artist formerly known as Twitter and see what the heck is going on. And just since they're so late, I didn't want to put this up before because I didn't want to miss them coming live, but this is the image on the left. The the image on the left is the assailant walking. The image on the right is him walking in his office. And to me, man, they look, I mean, it's really hard to differentiate those two except for the clothes they're wearing. Thank you so much, Earth. I really appreciate that. Is he taking a plea? Good question. What do y'all think? Why are they now almost a full half hour late? So you guys have had to listen to me yammer on instead of watching an actual trial. Right? So let me just jump back to this and just make sure we don't miss anything. But I'm going to go over to the artist formerly known as Twitter right now and see if there's any updates there. No, there's nothing telling us. There's literally no information. I'm going to see if the Las Vegas Review Journal has anything. This is really, really, really weird. You would rather listen to me this whole time? Well, I do want to say I do have a couple other things that are going on. So I have two. Yeah, right, Earth. There's no question. I mean, there's no question. Oh, you were in Vegas? Were you there to try to cover it, or were you there just coincidentally? Anyway, Tellus made a face and it's stuck that way, and we're trying to fix it. So it very much could be that he is they're talking plea deal or something like that, or something happened with a juror or something. Um, my view was that the state was probably going to wrap things up today. Probably. I mean, no, I'm not certain. I don't have all the inside deets or anything like that. But the reason I say this is because they flew through their witnesses last week, and it feels like they've gotten to the end of the timeline. And the evidence has been pretty darn compelling. And the defense attorney has literally gotten no hits on the state at all. I mean, there was one point where I thought maybe he was getting close to proving that they didn't really know which vehicle uh, that they had the wrong vehicle, but he didn't even bring home his point. He like teed it up and then just let it sit there. So I don't know. I just felt like the evidence that was presented last week was pretty darn compelling. Um, so the state's going to be done pretty soon. Tellus has committed that his defense has said yes, for sure, he's going to testify. Not surprising at all for a guy who up until recently was going to be defending himself, right? So um yeah, so he's going to testify, and that should be, very, very, very interesting to watch. And I know that the his former office mates and also Jeff Gehrman's reporter friend. Oh wow, looks like they're actually finally coming in. Oh, it's your hometown, Earth. Gotcha. I'm a Cali girl. I've worked in the tech industry, so I've been there literally too many times to count. Literally too many times to count. And whenever my friends want to go there as like the girls' weekend, I'm like, do we have to go to Vegas? It's like a second office for me, you know. In case y'all who are listening haven't noticed, I've scheduled two different lives, one for tonight, one for tomorrow, on my new channel. On
Judicial District Court Department 12 is now in session. Your Honorable Michelle Leonard
that
presiding.
channel.
Good morning.
An order to be seated, please.
Does the state stipulate to the presence of the jury panel
Yes, Your Honor.
and the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may call your next witness.
State called Taylor Oliver.
Okay, the state is continuing to call witnesses. Yeah, of course, Earth. Look at his. Let's see if he's had any sort of facial reconstruction. If he's figured out how to set his face to look as innocent as possible. The gentleman on the left with the gray suit. I don't doubt that he's a competent lawyer. I just think he got this case with barely any time to prepare for it, and it kind
You
of.
do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Taylor Tolliver, TAYLOR,
May I proceed? Good morning, Ms. Tolliver. How
Good
are you employed?
I am a detective with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
How long have you worked for Metro?
It'll be 10 years next month.
Okay. How were you assigned back in 2022?
I am criminal intelligence detective,
And what were your job duties back in 2022, say September?
an undercover surveillance detective.
And as an undercover surveillance detective back then, I think we all have a general idea of what that might look like, but can you tell the members of the jury what you did day to day as that type of detective?
Essentially, we would just utilize different equipment and tactics to essentially surveil people, follow them around, observe their activities. Sometimes they would be individuals, sometimes they would be businesses, dependent on what the investigators requested.
And the investigators, when they made a request of surveillance, do they explain their whole case to you, or do they just say, look, I need surveillance on this particular person on this date, or how does that work?
They typically give us objectives and then enough context from their investigation for those objectives, but not in detail their entirety of their cases.
Okay, so just sort of a framework so you can accomplish the objective on the surveillance?
Correct.
Okay. During September of 2022, did you conduct surveillance on behalf of, or at the request of, I should say, Detective Derek Jaffe?
Yes.
And was one of the days that you conducted surveillance September the 1st of 2022?
Yes.
Do you remember if that location was like a neighborhood on a street called Spanish Steps?
Yes.
Who was the target? Who were you watching on that day?
Robert TELLES.
And do you see Mr. Tellis in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you point to him and describe what he's wearing today, please?
A black suit with a multicolored tie.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant? When you were conducting your surveillance on September the 1st, were you in a vehicle or were you on foot, or what kind of?
Predominantly in a vehicle.
Okay, and as part of the surveillance, do you keep a log of activities that you observed on September the 1st?
Yes.
And then based on that log, is that later transferred to the detective?
Yes.
In addition to keeping a written log, do you also sometimes take photographs?
I do.
And on that day, did you take some photographs?
Yes.
And that would be him and at his residence doing whatever?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the photographs, are those given to the requesting detective as well?
They are.
And then all of that is sort of kept in a Metro file? You give it to the case agent, you're kind of done?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Thank you. Having shown defense counsel what's been marked as states 348 through 350, just to ask you to look through these photographs and let me know when you're done, please. Having looked at those photographs, do they fairly and
Look at that
accurately
innocent- look at
depict
the
what you
innocence
saw on
of trying to
September the 1st?
There.
They do.
State moves to admit 348 through 350.
No objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm gonna,
He's
may I publish?
Owning, I'm
I'm
sorry.
gonna put on the overhead what's been admitted as states 348. Let me just. Can you see that on your screen up there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are we looking at in that photograph?
The vehicle of Robert Tellez, or the vehicle he operated that day.
Okay. And is it parked basically in front of his house on Spanish Steps?
Yes.
This is states 349. And what are we looking at in that photo?
That is Mr. Tellez exiting the vehicle.
And last one is states 350. Another shot of Mr. Tellis.
It appears to be immediately after him exiting the vehicle, walking towards the residence.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Tolliver, so I understand your testimony correctly. Mr. Tellis was under surveillance by yourself at the request of Detective Jaffe on September 1st, 2022.
By myself and my squad. Yes.
Photographed him watched him, correct?
Yes,
You'll agree with me that there were no actions on his part that would raise any suspicions in your mind concerning crimes that may or may not be occurring.
I don't deem what is suspicious. I make the observations and forward them to the detective that requested it.
Did he leave the residence multiple times, a single time? Please explain to us a little more in detail what you observed on the events of September 1st, 2022.
Specifically the first.
Correct.
I believe on that day he left to Target, if I'm correct. And then I believe he also went to pick up a juvenile from a bus stop.
Okay, a child. The child that he picked up, he returned home to his residence.
Correct.
Fair to say?
Yes,
Were you involved in the surveillance of Mr. Tellis on September 6th?
yes.
And if you could explain to us what it was that you saw occur on September 6th. Have you reviewed your report in preparation for your testimony today?
I have. But we did a couple surveillances on Mr. Tellis. Oh, I do remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So that was the day I don't believe he initially left the house. The day he exited his residence and began cleaning the exterior of his vehicles.
Okay, and just so we're clear, you surveilled him washing 3 vehicles, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall what 3 vehicles those were?
There was the vehicle that was just depicted, I believe, BMW, a Tesla, and then a Yukon.
Okay. You surveilled him washing the exterior of the 3 vehicles, correct?
Correct.
And this washing of the 3 vehicles took about 2.5 hours, correct?
I believe so, yes.
At no time did you see him enter and wash any of the 3 vehicles, correct?
That's incorrect. I did see him enter a vehicle.
But to wash, you saw him, when you saw him enter the vehicle, it was to move the vehicle, correct?
No, I saw him enter a vehicle that he did not move.
Okay, and what vehicle was that?
The Yukon.
And what specifically did you see him do inside the
I
vehicle?
can't say what he did within the vehicle. My vantage point didn't allow me to see that.
He was in the vehicle briefly.
Correct.
You saw him exit the residence prior to washing the 3 vehicles with cleaning agents, correct?
Yes.
And he used those cleaning agents to wash the BMW, correct?
Yes.
The Tesla
Yes.
and the Yukon, the Denali, correct?
Yes.
But he washed the exteriors only, correct?
As far as what my vantage point gave me, I saw him wash the exteriors of the 3 vehicles you just mentioned. Yes.
Okay, and nothing else, just the exteriors is the point I'm getting at.
Correct. So the only thing I was able to see was the exteriors. Yes.
Okay. You made note on your surveillance log of September 6th that you saw cameras on the exterior of Mr. Tellis's residence on September 6th, correct?
Yes.
However, you did not see those cameras on September 1st.
I did not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Just briefly, Your Honor. I'm going to put back on the overhead what's been admitted at stage 350. The area kind of above the light here by the garage, that's where there were no cameras, right, on the 1st?
Correct.
And they were later seen on the 6th?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Yeah, of course. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down. You are excused from your subpoena. I'm going to state and call the next witness.
Now that they're on his face, check out his face and how much it twitches. It's like he remembers that his face is in a weird position and he has to reset it again. It's usually when people are testifying. So I was talking earlier, I've scheduled 2 lives. I'm going to have a live tonight on my other channel about anybody who's been following me about the Straightway Ministries and the
Thank you. Remain standing, raise your hand, please, clerk, please.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action
Daniel Muir, the former NFL player who now is a leader in a cult, basically was arrested for beating up his child. And I received the arrest affidavit, and it's rather heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking.
Metropolitan Police Department.
How long have you worked as a crime scene analyst?
A little over 7 years.
And how long have you had the designation as a supervisor?
About 2 days.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
But you worked as a crime scene analyst, I think you said for 7 years?
Yes.
And can you just briefly describe the training that you went through in order to work as a crime scene analyst?
As a crime scene analyst, we undergo about a 3 to 4 month process where we go through the academy, where you learn all the basics to be able to be successful throughout field training. And then you go through a 3 to 4 month process in field training where you're supervised by a senior crime scene analyst. And then at the end, you take a competency test where you have to pass to be able to go on and do actual field work by yourself. And then you continue training throughout your career to make sure you're up to date.
Okay. Now, we've had some testimony before this jury about the crime scene 7216 Bronze Circle. So we won't go into that in too much detail, but did you report as well as one of the crime scene analysts to Jeff Gehrman's residence on September the 3rd of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And you worked with Claire Browning and other crime scene analysts and detectives to process that scene?
I did.
What was your responsibility in terms of the scene?
For this scene, my responsibility was impounding all evidence and doing the scans to complete a diagram.
Okay, and we've seen the diagram, but in terms of what you impounded, were they swabs of like possible DNA off like rocks and bushes and that sort of thing?
Yes, we took the rocks as an original surface with apparent blood. We took additional swabs of apparent blood and then DNA swabs of other surfaces as well.
Okay, and all of that was impounded by you?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were at that original scene at Bronze Circle, was Detective Derek Jaffe present?
Not at the scene, no.
No. I want to kind of fast forward a little bit to September the 8th. Were you called upon to assist homicide on that date?
I was.
And that was still with regard to Mr. Gehrman's murder?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you asked to meet homicide on September the 8th?
I was asked to go to the PA's office, which was 515 Shadow Lane.
And by the PA's office, do you mean the public administrator's office?
Yes, ma'am.
When you got there, did you see detectives that you knew?
Yes, we all met up.
Okay, and there would be homicide detectives present?
Yes.
Did you see Detective Jaffe on the 8th?
Yes, I did.
And was he doing something separate than homicide? Were you there at homicide's request or his request?
I was there at homicide's request.
Did he appear to be taking his own pictures and doing his own sort of look through the PA's office?
Yes, he was.
So it was separate from what homicide was doing?
Yes.
Were you primarily working with Detective Gaddis?
Yes, she was primary on the investigation.
Okay. Was one of your responsibilities on the 8th to take photographs of the offices at the public administrator's office?
It was.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Ms. Baxter, I'm going to show you what's been marked as states 204 to 213.
Just ask you to look through those and let me know when you're done.
Okay.
Yes. Having looked through those, do you recognize those to be the photographs you took at the PA's office on the 8th of September?
They were.
Okay. State moves to admit 204 to 213, Your Honor.
We have no objection.
And may I publish them? Okay, thank you. Okay. State moves to admit 204 to 213, Your Honor.
We have no objection.
And may I publish them? Okay, thank you. I'm going to put on the overhead what's been admitted as states 204. Let me back that up just a little. Do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
And what are we looking at there?
That's the outside of the public administrator and public guardian office.
Okay. And this is states 205. What's that a photograph of?
That's the exterior of the office that was labeled Rob.
Okay. And did you and the detectives eventually went into that office?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm putting on the overhead states 207. Is that in the office?
That is.
And can you kind of orient us just a little bit, like where, from the prior photograph, is this looking to where the front door of the office is?
So I would be standing behind the desk within the office, shooting towards the door.
Okay. And this is states 208. Obviously the desk.
Yes.
So sort of the opposite view of the photograph we just saw.
That's correct.
And I'm putting on the overhead now what's been admitted as states 209. That's the view of the entry into the office.
Yes, from standing at the doorway.
Okay. There appears to be a computer on the desk there. Is that fair?
Yes.
Do you know what happened to that computer?
Homicide detectives collected it.
Okay. And I'm going to just show you one more close picture. This is states 212. Does that appear to be the computer that homicide collected?
Yes, I believe it's like behind or and those are the monitors, so it's connected to the computer they collected.
Okay. And so they would have impounded that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Baxter, fair to say that you were called upon to fulfill your duties as a crime scene investigator to collect evidence concerning a murder case, correct?
Yes.
You testified that when you were at the public administrator's office on September 8th of 2022 that you saw Mr. Jappy, correct?
I did.
You were testified that you were called upon by the homicide office to be there, correct? Or the
That's
homicide
correct.
detail?
Homicide detectives, yes.
And your job primarily concerned taking photos and collecting evidence, correct?
Yes.
Generally, when you work with homicide, that's what you're called to do. You come and you document the evidence, correct?
That's correct.
And you had testified that when you arrived that the Detective Jappy was there, correct?
He was.
And you had testified that he was taking his own photos
He was.
and collecting his own evidence.
I'm not sure if he collected evidence, but I do know he took photographs.
Okay, but you had testified on direct collecting evidence. I mean, he was there doing his own thing, correct?
Yes, he was doing his own thing to take photographs, collect evidence. I'm not exactly sure what he collected, if he did any.
So he was not part of your team at the direction of the homicide unit, correct?
Right.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any Brett?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
testimony here today. You may step down and you're excused from your subpoena. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And the state may call their next witness.
State's going to call Matt Havana. Please stand. Sorry. Matt, like, Havana.
Your Honor, may I just grab another photograph? Thank you.
Please remain standing, raise your right hand, face first.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Matthew, Mathew, Hovanes, Hovanec.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Thank you very much. Sir, what do you do for a living?
I'm employed by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
And what section are you assigned to?
I'm the commission supervisor, one of the commission supervisors of the Digital Forensics Lab.
What are the responsibilities of the digital forensics lab, sir?
We collect, process, and make reports on all digital data, whether that's phones, videos, computers, tablets, the like.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit about some of the training and experience you've had leading up to working in this division?
Sure. I've got over 1,000 hours of training relevant to digital forensics from IASIS, which is the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists. I have my CFC, which is Certified Forensic Computer Examiner. I also have a CMDE, which is Certified Mobile Device Examiner. For some of the vendor-specific training that we use with Cellebrite, I have a CCO and CCPA certification, also drone certified through Cellebrite. With Magnet, I have a MCFE, Magnet Certified Forensic Examiner, and a CMGE. I also have training in cell phone repair and video training.
Okay. Did you assist Metro and specifically the homicide section led by Justine Gaddis in an investigation regarding the death of Jeffrey Gehrman?
I did.
Were there a series of devices that you were responsible for forensically downloading?
There were.
Did that include a phone that belonged to Robert Telles?
Yes.
Do you remember what type of phone that was?
I believe it was a Google Pixel 6.
Okay. Did you also assist in forensically downloading a phone belonging to Jeffrey Gehrman?
I do not believe I did that phone.
Okay. Let me ask you about this. Did you assist in forensically downloading a workplace computer belonging to Mr. Telles?
I did.
Can I object this to foundation as to who it belonged to, so I objected that character.
Can you lay a foundation?
Sure. Well, let's start this way. Did you forensically download a desktop?
I did.
Okay. Did you review any materials or documents to learn where that desktop came from?
I did.
Okay. What sort of materials did you review?
User accounts, where the computer was collected from.
Okay. Did you ever have any time to consult also with Detective Justine Gaddis about materials that were collected by her homicide team?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you the question again. There was a desktop that you forensically downloaded, correct?
Yes.
Who did it belong to?
Robert Telles.
Okay. And where did it come from?
From the Clark County, I can't remember the exact
Public
title of the
Administrator's
office. Public Administrator's Office, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, if you could just explain to the jury, what does it mean to forensically download something?
So when we forensically download something, we get the device in the state it is and try to make absolutely no changes to it. We want the device to be in the same state it was when we retrieved that device or when we were given that device. So when we download a phone or download a computer, we're using software and hardware that makes no changes to that device.
Okay. Are you familiar with a program called Cellebrite?
I am.
What is Cellebrite?
Cellebrite is a company that manufactures software and hardware for downloading phones, computers and phones.
Was Cellebrite utilized in the forensic download of Robert Telles' Google Pixel phone?
Yes.
All right. I want to ask you, with respect to Mr. Telles' workplace desktop computer, what program was used to forensically download that?
For that, it was Magnet Axiom.
Okay. How does that operate? Similar to Cellebrite, different?
It's similar to Cellebrite. A program's used to create an image, and then Magnet, the Axiom program, is used to process that image and create reports.
Okay, so we're talking about reports. Are they sometimes referred to as an extraction report?
Yes.
Okay, what is an extraction report?
There's different types of reports that can be created by each program. It's something that allows the end user, in this case, detectives going over the case or attorneys, to look at that data that I've processed in a viewable format, tag items, create reports from it.
Okay. When you look at one of these, so for example, if there's certain information in a phone that's identified as potentially relevant or connected some way, you can identify it, and then this report will spit it out in some sort of format. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for example, will the extraction report have information about potentially when, let's just use a photo, for example. Let's say you find a photo, it is marked. and its extract, will it have information potentially relating to either when it's created or maybe when it's appearing on the phone, something along those lines?
It is possible.
Okay. Will it include potentially locations, like a pathway about where it might be found within a device?
Yes.
Potentially, let's say if the image has, like maybe there's metadata about GPS coordinates, could sometimes that be attached to an image or some sort of device?
It can be.
Okay, it just depends, correct? Have you reviewed a series of
Yay,
extraction
Chopper.
reports related to information contained inside Mr. Telles's phone?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to, let's see, I'm going to show.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he's
one
guilty.
second.
I mean, he looks guilty. He just sits there looking guilty. He's a little more normal there. I'm looking forward to him testifying.
Counsel, what's been marked as 357A, 356.
Yes, he is married, Sharon. Hey, PKC.
357.
I read an article about his, he's on his second marriage right now. I read an article about it on one of the first trial days.
363. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. 360.
And that's why this alleged affair was very scandalous. He's married. I think she might have been married too. I'm not sure.
I reviewed these. Any objections? No objection. Okay.
Stipulation.
And just for the court have a record of those exhibits? Okay. I'm going to come up and show you those exhibits. Get a digital version of them as well, but let's just at least take a look at these real quick and let me know if you're familiar with what you're looking at.
You can tell he's getting scared of something when he starts to smile, like when he's getting scared about what, okay, they're going to, now the jury is going to see this. Now the jury's going to hear this. I mean, it must be really difficult to go through life thinking you're a total badass, but have literally no control over how your face apparently expresses everything that you're really feeling inside. Chopper.
Yes, I'm familiar with these.
Okay.
Jail, right?
And you've seen digital
Incarcerated.
versions of this as well.
He may already
Yes.
be married.
Are these extraction reports derived from Mr. Telles's Google Pixel phone?
Yes.
All right. I'm also at this time going to ask for the admission of stage proposed 354, which is essentially a digital equivalent of that same information.
No objection.
This time we are going to publish 354. Could, yeah, we could just queue over. I've got to move it over. It's okay. I got it. Here we go. Okay, opening a file that says Tellus phone. Let's open the file that says phone evidence campaign photo. So let's close this up.
He's looking at this and smiling like,
So
"Let's
this
see."
is an example of an extraction report, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And let me just zoom in here for a second. So we have this thing that says path. What is that?
That's the file path that this specific artifact was located at.
All right. And When you look at that, can you tell roughly where in the phone that's coming from?
I can tell what application it was derived from.
Okay, so tell us what application it was derived from.
From Google Photos.
From Google Photos. What is it? What do you see there in that extraction pathway that tells you that?
The google.android.apps.photos.
Okay. We look over to the right. There's in that second big column, it indicates the word modified. What does that mean?
So being that this is a cached file, that's the last time that the phone interacted with that specific file.
Okay. And sometimes that can, for example, in some instances, you may have like a created on date. Would that be correct?
Correct.
So if you could tell, if the phone, the extraction could show, like, we know definitively that that phone created that particular, it might say created or something along those lines. Is that right?
You'd usually have something like created data or more metadata.
Okay. But at the end of the day, what does the word cache mean, by the way? How does that work in relation to phones?
Cache is phones use it, computers use it. It's temporary storage. When say use an application, visit a website, data, files, scripts, media, pictures can be stored in the cache to assist those applications or say a website in loading information faster so that it's not always going back to the source to download it. Tries to make the application run smoother, run faster for the user.
Okay. And so we have here, there's a couple of thumbnails over here. So those are kind of small images of that, correct?
Correct.
And we can see, this thumbnail, the re-elect Rob Tellis, what is the date that it was modified or last modification date on there?
That'd be April 5th of 2022.
Okay, and this first image, when is that modified?
July 24th, 2022.
Okay. Close that out. And then there are associated in this folder, we have a full image, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to generate an extraction report regarding items searched items within Mr. Tellis's phone?
Sorry, could you say that once more?
Was there an extraction report generated for searched items, certain searched items within Mr. Tellis's phone?
Yes.
Okay. What does the searched items category mean in relation to Celebrate?
So in this instance, it was using the Google Chrome app, and it was something that would have been searched on there.
So you would kind of type those words into your phone, and then it would spit out potentially a result or create a record. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at this one, how many times was this tagged?
There's 25 tags.
Okay. And so when we look at what is the timestamp of the first one?
6:43:54 p.m. on
Go ahead.
On June 21st,
So
2022.
you tricked me. You went time first, and I was kind of thrown off there. I wanted the date more importantly, but thank you very much. So on 6/21/22, someone typed into the phone. What's this category that says value? Why is that? What does that mean?
That's the value that was typed in.
Okay. And then when we look at source, again, is this kind of like the pathway?
Yes.
And where is it telling you these words, Jeff Garriman, Las Vegas? Where is that popping up in this particular phone?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Well, is this a pathway here? Is it telling you what application was being used when those words were typed?
Yes, the source is telling you what application was in use.
So what is the application?
That'd be Chrome.
Chrome. What is Chrome?
Chrome is a web browser.
Okay, is that like Safari if you have an Apple?
Yes.
Okay. So just scrolling down, are we seeing the same term being used, same terms being used?
That is correct.
Does it appear that all of these dates are June 21st of 2022?
It does.
Looking at entry number 17, what's the value in terms being used now?
In value, it's Jeff Garriman, Las Vegas with Rob 4 in V in parentheses.
Okay.
Sorry, quotations.
Was there an extraction report regarding web history.
Yes.
What is web history in terms of this program?
Web history of this program can look again at the browsers you're using and what exactly you're doing with that browser, what websites you're visiting.
I just want to address a couple things in the chat. So the reason I am totally familiar with the idea that people watch from the bushes and stuff like that. Just bush watch just reminded me of bushwhack. That's why I thought it was funny. I just never seen it put it that way. Bush watch. I'm bushwhacking. I just think it's funny. The other thing is Chopper. I do go into other court channels. I don't go into like court TV or long crime. I go into other true crime channels when they're reporting on true crime and I chat there. Sometimes, very rarely, I will chat in like Chroma chats, but it's very rare. I really don't like to bring more attention to myself. From in a drama chat, I would much rather be, talking about specifically a true crime case, but I have chatted in a drama chat here and there. See what I mean? So it's just, I know you won't go back to court TV. Anyway, I just wanted to stop to say that. Let's keep listening.
Okay, so you can kind of see, again, someone may type in terms and you can see if they're visiting a particular website. Is that
Yes.
correct? How many tags are there here?
18.
Okay. What was the title? What were the words being typed into Google search?
Jeff Gehrman, Las Vegas,
And what was the date?
6/21/22,
At what time?
6:43:54 p.m.
Does this appear to parallel the first entry under the searched items as well?
It does.
And can that happen? You can type, the program can pick up when you're typing in and consider it a searched item, but if it shows up in your web browser, it might also be captured under web history.
Yes, multiple artifacts can be found in multiple places.
Okay. And these are examples of all the time that those terms were searched. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, another area is photographs. We talked about photographs briefly. Were there a series of extractions brought up regarding images found on a phone?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Detective, are you familiar with the date in which Jeff Gehrman passed away?
I do not recall the specific date.
Okay. If I told you September 2nd of 2022, you wouldn't have a reason to disagree. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Now, I want to take a look at this extraction report. How many tags are there? 3. Okay. And what is the pathway related to these images?
Again, it's from the google.android.apps.photos.
Okay. And so it's coming from like a photo library?
From Google Photos.
Okay. And a Google Photos in his phone?
It could be in his phone, could be in the cloud.
So that's when we take pictures and then it kind of flows up into the cloud and it's stored up there.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So what is the modified date on this image here?
8/19/2022 at 1:42:15 p.m.
Okay. How about the second entry? What is the modified date there?
8/19/2022, 12:23:30 p.m.
Okay. And the third one?
8/19/2022, 1:42:15 p.m.
Okay. And you mentioned that these also capture the actual images themselves. Is that right? When we do these reports?
Yes.
Publishing the first file. What color is that shoe on the right?
It appears to be gray.
Okay. What brand does it appear to be?
Nike?
Sir, when we look at the sole of the shoe, is it purely white or does it appear to have a design somewhere in the middle here?
Appears there's a design.
What sort of design does it look like?
4 black squares.
Okay. And this image was found inside Mr. Telles's phone.
Yes.
And the modified date on that was August 19th of 2022.
Yes.
Okay, so roughly, do my math correctly, 13 days before Mr. Garriman's murder, 12 days if my math is off.
Sounds correct.
Okay. And then this image appears 3 different times.
That's correct.
One second.
So the importance of this is that the he keeps denying that he was wearing the shoes that he's clearly taking pictures of
Was it
in
an
his own
extraction
device.
report produced using the term Alfred camera?
Yes.
Publishing that file. How many, what is timeline?
Timeline's just giving you a reference of how many different columns are basically how many you've extracted or tagged.
And in Celebrite, if there's a timeline, does it kind of put events that occur in the phone in chronological order?
It does.
Okay. So there appears to be how many things pulled from the timeline?
7.
Okay. And there's a column here that says type, correct?
Yes.
And so it kind of tells you what type of data entry point is inside the phone. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, so let's read out entry number 1. What is the type?
Installed applications.
So what does that mean?
Be when you downloaded an application from an app store.
Can you please tell me the date that this application was installed?
9/5/2022 at 12:03:53 a.m.
And if you could just help us, there's this parent parentheses that says UTC -7. What does that mean?
UTC is a time code, so right now we're in -7 during daylight savings time.
Okay, so we're talking time zones, is that right?
Yeah, universal coordinated time, and then every time zone goes off of that.
And we're Pacific, correct?
Yes.
And so to get to Pacific, you'd have to subtract 7 hours?
Yes.
And is that what the program is indicating, that this has been converted to Pacific time?
Yes.
All right. If you could, so it says timestamp, it reads that date. Read what it says right here.
Purchase date.
Okay. And then what's the description of what application was purchased?
The Alfred Camera Home Security app.
Okay. So this application was installed by someone 3 days after Mr. Garriman was killed.
Correct.
All right. Let's go to the next entry. What is entry number 2 about?
Web history.
All right. And give us the date and time.
9/5/2022, 12:10:46 a.m.
So because this is timeline, it's kind of merging different sources of information, correct?
Yes.
Like before we had a report that just looked at web history, but timeline can pull from different spaces, right?
Correct.
So for example, if there was an image that might relate to this, it would also migrate into this report. Would that be correct?
That's possible.
All right. So if you could, it's indicate, what's the term that's being used right there?
It's the last visited time.
What does that mean?
When somebody last visited that website.
All right. So at 12:10 a.m., what is the user of this phone visiting?
The Alfred Web Viewer PC is home security monitor using Google Chrome.
Okay. And we find, is there a second entry mirroring all of that same information?
Yes.
Look at entry number 4. How about then?
Same information.
But is the date a little bit different?
The time is different. Yes.
Okay. We have other similar entries. Is that correct on the 5th?
That is correct.
Okay. Was there information, an extraction report also, apologize, was there also an extraction report derived from images that appear to come from Google Maps?
Yes.
Okay. So, let's first pull up the extraction report. How many images relating to Google Map images were tagged for this report?
132.
So that signifies that there was 132 images found in his phone related to this particular topic?
That were tagged, yes.
Okay. Let's start scrolling through some of this. For example, with this first one here, can you tell us when you look at the pathway, where are these images coming from?
From the Google Maps app.
So they're coming from the Google Maps app.
Yes.
All right. What's the modification date on this?
Again, that would be the last time that that application interacted with that specific artifact.
Please read out the date for entry number 1.
8/12/2022, 9:55:24 p.m.
Okay. Let's look at this second one. What is there? It's off by a couple of different seconds, correct?
Yes.
But all the information remains the same.
Yes.
Does 8/12/22 appear to be the same date for these items?
It does.
Let's just all the way down to the end, all from 8/12. Is that correct?
Correct?
So let's open up a folder that says 7216 Bronze Circle. You recognize what you're looking at here?
A home?
It's a home. Is it in a certain type of web program?
This would be in Google Street View, yes, so Google Maps.
Okay. And so at this particular home, this is kind of an angle. This would be if someone was in Google Maps and pulled up a street view of 7216 Bronze Circle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it just another angle of
Yes.
that same home?
Yes.
Let's start getting to the actual images. So this is one of the images that was found inside Mr. Telles's phone. Did this correspond to one of the thumbnails?
Yes.
How about this one?
Yes. 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 Yes.
So these are stalking
Yes.
images of
Yes.
from Telles's device
Yes.
of the
Yes.
victim's home.
Yes.
All these images
Yes.
are ones that he took
Yes.
from his device
Yes.
before the murder.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Pulling up 7212 Bronze Circle. What are we looking at in this image?
Another street view of a house.
Okay. Is this image pulled out of Mr. Telles's phone?
Yes.
And again, the dates on these were August 12th of 2022.
Yes.
So that's roughly, my math is usually terrible, about 20 days before Mr. Gehrman is killed. If it's September 2nd. Am I doing that math right? I feel like I am.
Sounds close.
Sounds close? Okay. In this photograph, what is that?
Can
appear to be?
anyone say
Right above
premeditated?
the street address on the house?
Appears to be a solar powered security camera.
And that was inside Mr. Telles's phone.
The image, yes.
Are these images that came out of this extraction?
Yes. Yes.
Stalker.
Yes. Yes.
Jinx
What are
PKC.
we looking at here? This is another street view
It is.
of the street called Bronze Circle.
It is.
Are these following images that were pulled out of Mr. Telles's phone?
They are.
And there's a series of folders here that identify different houses on this street. Would that be correct?
Correct.
Okay. But ultimately, when you put them all together, it totals. How many does it total again? Based on this,
132.
with a date of August 12th of 2022.
Correct.
Was there also images, an extraction report created regarding what appeared to be, I apologize, I need to move this over. What appeared to be almost like surveillance,
There was.
publishing that report? How many tags are related here?
101.
If you could, please tell me the pathway where these images come from.
The google.android.apps.photos cache.
So it's coming from, again, the photo application inside Mr. Telles's phone.
That or Google Photo Cloud, one of.
Okay, or it was up in the cloud associated, but that phone, that particular phone belonging to Mr. Telles is associated with that cloud, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What's the modification date on this?
8/15/2022, 10/24:07 a.m.
So 3 days
He's
after
looking a little
132 images found of Bronze Circle.
That's correct.
And this is a rough look of
I
what
think
all of
trying to
these
write down
images
his
look like, correct?
Correct.
For his
What
testimony.
appears to be captured in these photographs?
Vehicles driving down a street.
And they all appear to be from 8/15 of 2022, correct?
They do.
So a total of 101, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, we don't have all 101, but I want to ask you, do these appear to be some of the images that appear inside this phone related to this extraction report?
They do.
He's shaking his head like, no, I did. That's not, no, yeah.
Was there also an extraction report created relating to images that appeared to
Oh, yeah,
have
we'll say that.
information related to Jeffrey Gehrman?
There was.
How many tags were there?
7.
Why don't you tell us again about the pathway? Where did these images come from?
From the Google Photos app.
So the same application that had kind of like this, the pictures of the cars driving by, same place,
Yes.
in the same place where all the Bronze Circle pictures are taken, correct?
Yes.
Okay, those came from the 12th and the 15th. Tell us about this date. When do these images, when are these at least show up as being modified?
8/23/2022.
Okay, so just a couple of days later, correct?
Correct.
And every one of these 7
And it's
images
the
is from
one-
that date, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to figure out why is he shaking his head? Like, what is he trying to deny? Oh, that
If you could,
she.
please read me the name that is under registrants.
Jeffrey M. Gehrman.
Okay. I'd like to go 2 notches down. Please read the registrant and the address.
Jeffrey M. Gehrman, 7216 Bronze Circle, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89128, I believe.
Okay. Can you tell me what is this? Read the top line up here. What does that say?
2021 Honda Civic Sport.
It provides a VIN number as well. Is that right?
It does.
Okay. It provides the body style. Is that right?
It does.
And when we look at this, can you look at the bottom and read the words of what that says right there?
Dell.
Okay. You're familiar with computers, correct?
Correct.
Does that appear to be a monitor?
It does.
A monitor that might be sitting on a desk, potentially?
Potentially.
This came out of Mr. Telles's phone.
Yes,
And the date of the modification on this is August 23rd. Is that right?
that's correct.
And that would be roughly 8
Yeah,
or
all
9
these
days.
pictures are
I just can't
planted.
remember if August. is
These
August
were all
31 days?
planted. He was happy.
I feel like August is 31 days. And if that's the
He was
case, then
happy.
that would be 9 days before Mr. Gehrman was killed.
Correct.
Okay. So this image comes out of Mr. Telles's phone. 31 days. I don't have that math. It's good. Okay. Did this image come out of Mr. Telles's phone?
It did.
Please, what are the names that we keep seeing appearing in here?
Jeffrey M. Gehrman.
Okay, and it's listing what? What's it kind of showing? Different what?
Different cars.
Okay. Again, do we see the Dell thing again?
Yes.
Okay. Next image, is this another angle of it? Another angle of like another image?
Yes.
Okay, it appears to come from a monitor, from a monitor for a computer.
Yes.
Is it more information about Gehrman and Hondas?
It is.
I guess there's another one down here, 2003 what?
2003 Volkswagen Passat GL.
Right. What are we looking at here? This is another image that came from the phone.
It is.
And again, it has similar information that we saw from one of the other images.
Correct.
Again, this comes out of Mr. Telles's phone.
It does.
And let's look at this one. What's this say up here?
Jeffrey M. Gehrman.
Okay, does it provide a date of birth for Mr. Gehrman?
It does.
What is the date of birth of Mr. Gehrman?
8/23/1953, 69 years old.
All right. Does it also provide a bronze circle address as well for Mr. Gehrman?
It does.
So the date on that is 8/23. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you also did a download of Mr. Telles's work computer, correct?
Correct.
A computer that was found in his office. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you produce a series of reports similar to an extraction report in relation to that?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to open up the first file here that's entitled Chrome Autofill 07216 Bronze. Is this kind of the cover page for your report, sir?
For a PDF report, yes.
Okay. So this indicates Chrome Autofill Record 1. Is that right?
That's correct.
Tell me what's the significance of the category name?
When something's typed in, such as an address into Google, it might think you want to store that as an autofill to make it easier to populate when you're typing something in the future.
What's the date on that?
That is 8/23/2022. It's 6:05:40 p.m.
Okay. So that's the same date that we had that we looked at before, right?
Yes.
So the ones that had like the car registration information that appeared to be on a monitor, computer monitor, we've got the same, at least the same date as those images, correct?
That's correct.
Can you please read to me what value was entered in at that point?
7216 bronze.
That's the same street associated with Mr. Gehrman on those images from 823, is that right?
That's correct.
Is that the same street name as all of those Google mapped images that we saw?
Correct.
Let's open the file. It says Chrome logins, RE TELLES. Now, read to me username. What's it say?
The username is rtellis at Clark County.
Okay, what's the created date and
That's his
time on that?
work address.
8/23/2022 at 6:04:56 p.m.
All right. And what is IDI core? Do you know what that is?
I do not know what
Okay.
IDI core is.
But essentially, just to be clear, the last thing that we looked at also tied into IDI core, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all this comes from the IDI core program, right?
Correct.
And whoever punched in their username put in rtellis at Clark County,
Yes.
okay, on 8/23 of 2022.
Yes.
Now I'm
He
opening
thought
a
he
file that
was able to
says
represent
Chrome Web
himself
History
and all.
Expanded Person Search. Can you
This
tell me what's the date and time on this one?
8/23/2022, 6:05:41 p.m.
And read to me the URL or the website that was being visited.
It's www.idicore.com/search/expanded person search.
And there's a visit count. How many times is that visited?
7.
And again, this is all from the same date as we saw those other images that appear to come from a desktop monitor.
Correct.
Court's indulgent. I have no further questions for this witness.
Let's see where the defense goes with this one. He looks embarrassed and pale and like,
Afternoon.
shit, all my premeditation is out in the
In reference
now.
to the report that you generated, which is State's Exhibit 354, we'll start with the questions concerning the extractions in reference to the cell phone. Do you call that line of questioning? There are a number of times that you were asked by the state the cell phone, and you pretty much every time responded the iCloud, correct? These images that you can testify to were derived or extracted from the iCloud.
No, iCloud would be for an Apple phone. This was a Google phone.
Okay,
So
so it
just
would be
the
a
cloud.
cloud, the
Yes.
cloud, Google Cloud. I mean,
Yes.
are you aware of how many devices, communication devices had access to this cloud?
I'm not.
So it could be 1, it could be 20. You're not able to give an opinion or testimony in reference to the number of cell phones, correct?
With access to that cloud account, no.
Oh, he's going to somebody else did it. Somebody
You
else-
have had experience in your employee dealing with clouds that are hacked
I knew it.
Personally, no.
I called.
personally, but you've been, but you're aware of
I was
investigations wherein a person's cloud is hacked.
Yes,
In fact, we hear about it, don't we? Oftentimes, oh, my cloud was hacked.
we do.
You were not called upon to conduct an investigation concerning the hacking of this cloud, correct?
No.
You were asked questions concerning an application in reference to security cameras. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Correct.
And it appeared that there was an app downloaded, whether to the phone. Can you testify concerning that? Was that downloaded to the phone or to the cloud?
It was downloaded to the phone.
So we're able to pinpoint the security application being downloaded to that phone, correct?
Correct.
The Pixel phone.
Correct.
And you were asked a date, and that date was on September 5th, 2022, correct?
That sounds correct.
And this app that was downloaded was concerning security cameras.
That's what it sounds like.
fairly common. One can download a security camera app in order to monitor their security cameras.
It is.
You'll agree with me that generally people download or, purchase a security camera and download an application concerning that security camera if there's a concern in reference to their security.
Yes.
You were asked questions in relation to the date that Mr. Gehrman passed, and you were told, hey, if it's September 2nd, 2022, would you have any reason to disagree with me? Call that question.
Yes.
Obviously, this case concerns the passing, the killing of Mr. Gehrman, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say that a person downloads a security app in reference to a security system in order to protect themselves and their property.
Correct.
Objection, calls for speculation.
Obviously, the point being that, hey, if a person's concerned about their security, someone that they may know has been killed, it would be reasonable to assume they would get a security camera and download an app in order to access that security camera from their phone.
Could be.
In reference to the Dell, the desktop, the last part of your questionings concerning various downloads in reference to Mr. Gehrman from the office laptop. Remember that line of questioning?
The office computer, yes.
Correct. Based upon your testimony, those images were downloaded after 6 p.m., correct?
Those images were still in UTC time. The one on the screen shows right now, they haven't been converted for Pacific Standard Time yet.
After 5 o'clock.
No, that website, if you do the time conversion, would be 11:05:41 a.m. on the 23rd.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Redirect?
Yes. Detective, there were some questions about hacking. Did you see, when you reviewed the phone, did you find any evidence that this phone download was corrupted in any way?
No.
Did anybody from Metro Homicide provide you any information to suggest that this phone had been hacked into?
No.
There was questions about it's reasonable to assume. I think the question related something along the lines of, if someone had been murdered, it might be reasonable to assume someone might download a security camera to potentially protect themselves. Do you remember being asked something like that?
I do.
Under that same line, possibly if someone actually had committed the killing, would it be reasonable to assume you might want to put security cameras up to see if people...
As a speculation. Thank you.
Okay. The time that we can see up on the screen, 6:05, on 8/23/2022, when you convert that to UTC time, what does that actually come out to?
Again, it's 8/23/2022 at 11:05:41 a.m.
Showing opposing counsel, which is marked as no objection. Permission to publish 351.
It's not admitted.
Okay, it's admitted by stipulation at this
Correct,
time,
yes.
and you may publish.
Could we just queue over for 1 second? So, August 22nd fell on a what?
August 22nd fell on a Monday.
And you said the time was,
Thank you,
what time
Evil
you converted
Queen.
UTC
That's so
time?
sweet of you.
I believe it was
Get a membership,
11. Well,
Evil
when I converted to
Queen.
Pacific Standard Time,
Mhm.
it was 11:05 and was it 41 seconds?
So 11:05 on a Monday, someone went into Mr. Telles's work computer and started looking up things like 7216 Broad Circle.
Correct.
I have no further questions for this witness.
No request.
Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down. You are excused from your subpoena. Do you have the next witness, lady?
May we approach?
Sure.
Okay, so it's 12 o'clock. They might go ahead and take a lunch. Or the state is going to rest now. And they're telling the court. He does, what was the word Patricia used? He looks panic stricken. Yes, he does. He looks panic stricken. He's like, he's sitting there going, how am I going to get around this?
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to recess for lunch. During this recess, you're admonished not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. Read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case. Do any research, consult dictionaries, the internet, or reference materials. Do any investigation, test a theory, recreate any aspect of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own, or form or express any opinion regarding the case till it's finally submitted to you, and will be in recess till 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, for next thing here, sure.
So I want to react to what Chopper is saying here, saying that usually all evidence is presented in the beginning, but what I'm seeing here is that what the prosecution is doing is saving its most damning evidence for the end. So it's the most memorable. They're telling a story, right? They're basically telling a narrative through the witnesses and the evidence that's presented. So what they did was they started with the neighbors, and then they went into more of the technical stuff with the medical examiner. Then they went into the observance of his car and the footage of him walking. But then they got into the end of last week. They got into the other witnesses that were really important. The first one was that woman that he was allegedly having an affair with, and then there was the detective who was investigating him and the previous administration of the office, because it's clear that the defense is accusing that investigative arm of planting the evidence against TELLES just to get him. But on the stand, that investigator said that basically TELLES has been exonerated from the investigate. Like, they did investigate him. They didn't find any evidence that he was getting kickbacks. They presented the information to the FBI. They decided not to pursue, so they're not pursuing, but they're still investigating the other party that TELLES reported. So what that shows is that what the defense is trying to say, the law enforcement is corrupt. They're just witch hunting. They're targeting TELLES. But the fact that the guy got up on the stand and said, no, he was exonerated. We found out we figured out he didn't do anything. And we're still continuing to investigate TELLES's opponents, shows that they're not being partial about this prosecution, that they're prosecuting this murder on him because of the evidence, and that there are two different departments in the in the force there in Las Vegas who are doing those different investigations. And I think the reason TELLES got mixed up about thinking that the fraud investigator was involved in the murder investigation is because when he barricaded himself, he basically barricaded himself and did said he was committing unaliving in his bathtub, and they had to do a SWAT takedown. They had to go in with a SWAT team. And so, oh shoot, where was I going with that? Man, I hate when that happens. Anyway, I think you guys get my point. Point being that maybe I'll just wrap it up by saying this: he's toast. I'm sorry. They are as they're going through all the evidence, evidence and the different witnesses, they're also telling a story, and the evidence that they're presenting toward the end of the state's case is the most damning. And this evidence, I would say, that they just showed was very damning. He was literally surveilling Jeff Gehrman. He was taking pictures of his car, following him around. He took multiple pictures of his home, of the outside of his home. Like, where am I going to be able to do this? He's probably one of the dumbest criminals I've ever covered from a trial perspective, because he kept all of this evidence, this damning evidence against him. The shoes that he tried to cut up, the hat that he cut up, there's a couple other things that he maintained possession of that were in his possession, and they're trying to say were planted in his house during the warrant process, search warrant process. So they are off to lunch. I will let you all go run around the rest of YouTube. Yeah, it's in the bag. Go ahead, run around the rest of YouTube, checking out the other channels, but please do come back when trial resumes in about an hour. I will schedule it for when it's supposed to start, and we will gather back here. And I want to thank once again the lovely Evil Queen for gifting 5 Disorder in the Court memberships. Let me see if I can find a cute clip for you. This is one of my favorite
Good morning,
ones.
sir. What's your name?
Me?
Yeah, you. Yes.
Nathaniel Saxon, sir.
Your name's not Buttfucker 3000, you yo-ho. What kind of idiot law?
You yodel. I love it when the guy goes, yodel, you yodel. Oh my gosh. So thank you all for being here. And thank you, Earth, for that information about the bots and for sharing my links in your Discord. I really, really appreciate that if you're still here. And I will see you all back in about an hour. Have a lovely break. Love y'all. Bye.